Let go completely. God is handling what you can't. Those words sound simple, almost gentle, but living them takes courage, humility, and deep trust. Today, I want to speak to the tired hearts, the overthinkers, the silent fighters, the ones who lie awake at night, replaying conversations, worrying about outcomes, and trying to control things that are far beyond human strength. This is for the person who feels like they are holding the weight of the world on their shoulders and quietly wondering how much longer they can keep going. We are taught from a young age to be strong, to figure things out, to push harder, to never quit. Strength becomes synonymous with control. We believe that if we just plan enough, work enough, worry enough, then somehow we can prevent pain, failure, or disappointment. But the truth is, there are moments in life where no amount of effort, intelligence, or determination can fix what is broken or answer what is uncertain. There are seasons when your hands are simply too small to carry what you're trying to hold. Letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean you stop caring or stop trying. Letting go means you release the illusion that everything depends on you. It means recognizing that there is a higher power, a greater wisdom, a God who sees what you cannot see and understands what you do not understand. When you let go completely, you are not falling into emptiness. You are falling into hands far stronger than your own. Many of us are exhausted not because life is so heavy, but because we refuse to put anything down. We replay the past, trying to fix what already happened. We rush into the future, trying to control what hasn't arrived. We carry guilt, regret, fear, and expectations that were never meant to live in our hearts. God never asked you to carry all of that. He asked you to trust Him. Think about how often you've tried to force an outcome. You prayed, but you also panicked. You believed, but you also doubted. You said you trusted God, but you still tried to manage every detail yourself. And when things didn't go the way you planned, you blamed yourself, thinking you didn't do enough or weren't enough. But what if the delay, the redirection, or the closed door wasn't punishment? What if it was protection? What if God was handling something behind the scenes that you couldn't see? Letting go completely requires honesty. You have to admit that you are not in control, and that can be terrifying. Control makes us feel safe, even when it's false safety. Trusting God means stepping into uncertainty with faith instead of fear. It means saying, I don't know how this will work out, but I know who is in charge. That kind of surrender is not weakness. It is strength rooted in faith. There are battles you cannot win by fighting harder. There are problems you cannot solve by thinking longer. There are wounds you cannot heal by pretending they don't hurt. Some things only change when you place them in God's hands and stop taking them back. You cannot keep asking God to take over while you continue to interfere. At some point you have to release your grip. Letting go also means trusting God's timing. We want answers now. We want clarity immediately. We want healing instantly. But God works in seasons, not seconds. What feels like delay to you may be preparation. What feels like silence may be alignment. God is never late, even when it feels like He's taking too long. When you let go, you stop rushing the process and start resting in His plan. Some of you are holding on to people who were only meant to be chapters, not the whole story. Letting go hurts, but holding on hurts more when God is asking you to move forward. If God removes someone from your life, it's not to punish you, it's to make room for what aligns with your future. Trust that God knows who belongs in your life and who doesn't. Others are holding on to guilt from mistakes you've already repented for. You keep punishing yourself for something God has already forgiven. Letting go means accepting grace. It means believing that God's mercy is greater than your past. You cannot move forward while dragging yesterday behind you. God is handling what you can't, including your redemption. Letting go also means releasing outcomes You may have dreams, prayers, and desires that haven't been fulfilled yet. You wonder if you heard God wrong or if you missed your chance. But God is not limited by missed opportunities. What is meant for you will find you, even if it takes a different path than you expected. Trust that God's plan is bigger than your timeline. There is peace that comes when you finally stop striving. Peace doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means you're no longer fighting God's process. It means you've accepted that even in chaos, God is present. Even in uncertainty, God is working. Even in pain, God is close. When you let go completely, you make room for peace to settle where anxiety once lived. Faith does not remove fear instantly, but it teaches you where to place it. Instead of letting fear control your decisions, you bring it to God. You say, "This scares me, but I trust you more than I trust my fear." That is what it means to let go. You acknowledge the emotion without letting it rule you. Some of you are in survival mode, doing your best just to get through the day. You smile on the outside while breaking on the inside. God sees that. He sees the prayers you don't have words for. He sees the tears you hide. Letting go means believing that God cares about the things you think are too small or too messy to bring to Him. Nothing about you is a burden to God. When you let go completely, you begin to live differently. You stop reacting out of panic and start responding out of faith. You stop chasing validation and start resting in identity. You stop forcing doors and start waiting for God to open the right one. Life doesn't become easier, but your heart becomes lighter. Trusting God doesn't mean you'll never be disappointed. It means you'll never be alone in your disappointment. It means even when things fall apart, you believe God can put them back together in a way that makes sense later, even if it doesn't make sense now. Letting go is a daily choice. Some days you will do it well, and other days you will struggle, and that's okay. God is patient. Every time you choose trust over control, you grow. Every time you surrender instead of stressing, you heal a little more. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to be willing to place it in God's hands. The same God who created the universe is capable of handling your problems. The same God who parted seas can make a way where you see none. The same God who brought you this far will not abandon you now. So breathe. Release what you've been gripping too tightly. Stop replaying what you cannot change. Stop worrying about what you cannot predict. Let go completely, not because life is easy, but because God is faithful. God is handling what you can't, working in ways you may never fully see. But one day you will understand. Letting go is often misunderstood as giving up, as if releasing control means you no longer care or have lost hope. In reality, letting go is one of the deepest expressions of faith and strength. It does not mean you stop trying, loving, or believing. It means you recognize the limits of your own power and choose not to carry burdens that were never meant to rest on your shoulders. There are situations in life that cannot be fixed by effort alone, no matter how sincere or determined you are. Holding on to them only drains your peace and leaves your heart exhausted. Many people confuse control with responsibility. They believe that if they stop worrying, planning every detail, or constantly trying and manage outcomes, everything will fall apart. But control is often an illusion that creates anxiety rather than security. When you try to control everything, you end up fighting battles that belong to God. Letting go does not remove responsibility. It simply shifts the weight from your hands to His. You still do what you can, but you release the pressure of having to make everything turn out perfectly. Letting go means admitting that you do not have all the answers, and that is not a failure. It is honesty. It is acknowledging that your strength has limits, your vision is partial, and your understanding is incomplete. God sees what you cannot see. He understands the full story. while you only see a single moment. When you let go, you are choosing trust over fear, faith over anxiety, and surrender over constant struggle. There is a quiet freedom that comes when you stop trying to fix what is beyond your control. You begin to breathe again, your thoughts slow down, your heart finds rest. This does not happen because the problem disappears, but because you stop allowing it to dominate your spirit. You learn to say, "I have done what I can, and now I place the rest in God's hands." That single decision can change how you experience life. Letting go also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are human, not meant to carry the weight of every outcome. God never asks you to manage the universe or predict the future. He asks you to trust him. When you release control, you make space for God to work in ways you never could on your own. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from striving harder, but from surrendering deeper. In choosing to let go, you are not stepping into weakness. You are stepping into alignment with God's will. You are saying that his wisdom is greater than your understanding, and his strength is greater than your effort. Letting go is an act of faith that frees your heart, restores your peace, and allows God to handle what you were never meant to carry. Worry often feels like a constant companion, quietly living in the mind and stealing rest from the heart. It shows up when answers are unclear, when outcomes are uncertain, and when life does not move according to our plan. Many people believe that worrying is a sign of caring, but in truth, worry is usually a sign of trying to control what we cannot manage. Trusting God is what brings peace into that space. When you stop forcing outcomes and begin relying on God's plan and timing, something within you shifts. The pressure eases, and your heart grows lighter. Trusting God does not mean that your problems instantly disappear, or that your life becomes free of challenges. It means you no longer carry the fear of facing those challenges alone. Peace does not come from having every answer. It comes from knowing who holds the answers. When you trust God, you accept that even when you do not understand what is happening, he does. This belief creates a deep inner calm that circumstances cannot easily shake. Forcing outcomes often leads to frustration and exhaustion. You replay situations in your mind, trying to predict every possible result. You push doors that refuse to open and blame yourself when things do not work out. Trusting God invites you to step back and allow his timing to guide you. What feels like delay may actually be protection. What feels like silence may be God working quietly behind the scenes. Peace grows when you stop measuring God's work by your own timeline. When worry lives in your heart, it steals your present moments. You may physically be in one place, but your thoughts are always somewhere else, consumed by fear of what might happen. Trusting God brings you back to the present. It allows you to focus on what you can do today, rather than stressing over what may or may not happen tomorrow. This kind of peace does not ignore reality. It simply refuses to let fear rule it. There is comfort in knowing that God's plan is not fragile. It does not depend on your constant anxiety to succeed. When you trust him, you release the belief that everything will fall apart if you stop worrying. Instead, you discover that life continues to move forward, often more smoothly when you place it in God's hands. Peace grows when you understand that God is at work even in moments of stillness. Trusting God also reshapes how you respond to uncertainty. Instead of panic, you choose prayer. Instead of fear, you choose faith. This does not mean you will never feel worried again, but it means worry no longer controls you. Each time anxiety rises, you remind yourself that God has carried you through before, and he will do so again. Peace settles in when you accept that God's presence is constant, even when answers are delayed. You may not see the full picture, but you trust that God is painting it with purpose. In that trust, worry loses its grip and peace finds a place to live. Life often unfolds in ways that we cannot predict or fully understand. We make plans, set goals, and imagine a certain path for ourselves, only to face delays, closed doors, and unexpected changes. It is easy in those moments to feel frustrated, confused, or even abandoned. We question why things are not happening according to our timeline, why opportunities seem to vanish, or why certain relationships end when we thought they would last. Yet these experiences are rarely random. They are often part of God's larger plan, which operates on a timeline far beyond our comprehension. Delays, closed doors, and unexpected changes are not necessarily setbacks. They are often forms of protection and preparation, keeping us from what is harmful and guiding us toward what is truly good. When something does not go according to plan, it is natural to feel disappointment or anxiety. Our human nature desires certainty, control, and immediate results. We want to see the finished picture, but God asks us to trust in the process, even when the outcome is hidden. Letting go in these moments means acknowledging that we cannot see the full story. God, however, does. He sees how every event, every decision, and every circumstance fits into a larger picture, designed for our benefit. What may feel like a loss today could be the very thing that sets the stage for a future blessing that we could never have imagined. God's timing is precise, even when it feels delayed. He understands what we are ready for and what we need to experience before receiving what is next in our lives. Sometimes a closed door is not a rejection, but a redirection, a way to protect us from pain, failure, or distraction. Other times, the silence we feel is not emptiness, but preparation, a quiet period in which God is aligning circumstances, opening hearts, and orchestrating opportunities that we cannot yet perceive. The challenge lies in trusting that, even in these moments of uncertainty, God is working diligently for our good. Letting go of our own rigid timelines is difficult, because it requires humility and faith. We are naturally impatient, and our minds are quick to fill gaps with worry or doubt. Yet, when we surrender these desires for control, we allow God's plan to unfold without interference. Trusting God's timing frees us from the pressure of forcing outcomes and allows us to embrace life as it comes, with hope rather than fear. It teaches patience, builds character, and strengthens faith because we are learning to rely not on our understanding, but on God's wisdom. Ultimately, trusting God means believing that He knows what we cannot see. It means understanding that delays and closed doors are not the end, but part of a greater narrative that is perfectly designed for our lives. What feels like confusion today may reveal purpose tomorrow. What seems like disappointment may turn into a profound blessing. Letting go and trusting God's timing is not a passive act. It is an active choice to believe in His goodness, wisdom, and love. It is a reminder that God's plan is always greater than our understanding, and by surrendering our need for control, we open our hearts to the fulfillment He has prepared for us. Letting go is one of the most challenging acts of faith because it asks us to release not just situations but also people, guilt, and the past. Life brings relationships and experiences that leave lasting impressions on our hearts. Some people walk into our lives for a season, teaching us lessons, shaping our character, and helping us grow, but they are not meant to stay forever. Holding on to them after their purpose has been fulfilled only brings pain, frustration, and stagnation. Letting go of people is not about bitterness or resentment. It is about acknowledging the reality of life's seasons and trusting God to guide both your journey and theirs. It is an act of love for yourself and for the other person, a recognition that sometimes the most caring choice is to release rather than cling. Releasing the past is equally important. Mistakes, regrets, and past failures can weigh heavily on the soul if we continue to carry them as if they define us. Many of us replay old decisions over and over, punishing ourselves for things we can no longer change. But God's forgiveness is greater than any error we have made, and holding on to guilt only prolongs suffering. Letting go of guilt means embracing the truth that you are forgiven, that you are allowed to move forward, and that the mistakes you made are not the sum total of who you are. By surrendering the past to God, you free yourself to live fully in the present and to step into the future with hope rather than fear. Holding on too tightly, whether to people or the past, delays healing. It keeps your heart tethered to experiences that no longer serve you and prevents you from growing into the life God has prepared for you. Letting go creates space for personal growth, space for new opportunities, and space for God to work in ways you cannot yet imagine. It allows your spirit to breathe, to expand, and to be filled with hope and expectation, instead of burden and regret. Every act of surrender opens the door to freedom, showing that faith is not just a belief, but a lived experience of trusting God's plan. Surrender is not a one-time event, but a daily choice. Every morning, every challenge, and every moment in which fear, doubt, or control tempts you is an opportunity to choose trust over worry. Faith is strengthened through this continual act of letting go. Each time you release control, forgive yourself, or step back from relationships that no longer belong in your life, you grow spiritually and emotionally. Surrender teaches patience, humility, and trust, because it reminds you that you are not alone, and that God is constantly working on your behalf, even in ways you cannot yet see. Letting go is a process, not a single moment of decision. It requires courage to face the unknown, humility to accept that not everything depends on you, and faith to believe that God's plans are greater than your attachments or regrets. It is through this process that your heart learns to experience true freedom. By releasing people, guilt, and the past, and by practicing daily surrender, you align your life with God's will. You allow Him to guide your path, fill your heart with peace, and open the doors to what He has next for you, which is often far more beautiful than anything you could have held on to. Surrender is not a single moment of decision. It is a daily practice that requires conscious effort and continual faith. Many people imagine surrender as a one-time event, a dramatic letting go of control that changes everything instantly. While moments of surrender can be powerful, the truth is that life constantly presents new challenges, uncertainties, and pressures that test our hearts. Each day brings opportunities to cling to fear, doubt, or anxiety, and each day presents a choice to release those burdens into God's hands. Choosing to surrender daily is what strengthens faith, because it trains the heart to trust in God consistently rather than sporadically. It is in these repeated acts of faith that our spiritual muscles grow, allowing us to experience peace that is not dependent on circumstances. Every time we face worry, fear, or uncertainty, we have an opportunity to practice surrender. We can choose to panic, to try to control the uncontrollable, or to stress over the unknown. Or we can choose to place our trust in God, knowing that He sees what we cannot, and that His plans are far greater than our own understanding. This daily act of letting go is an intentional decision to say, I do not have all the answers, but I trust you, Lord, to handle what I cannot. It is not always easy, especially when life feels overwhelming, but with each moment of surrender, faith grows stronger. What may feel like a small choice in the moment becomes a lasting foundation for resilience, hope, and spiritual maturity. Daily surrender also transforms the way we experience life. When we stop trying to control every outcome and instead hand our fears over to God, our hearts become lighter, we begin to notice a sense of calm even in the midst of uncertainty. Life does not suddenly become free of challenges, but the weight of carrying them alone is lifted. By choosing faith over fear, we allow God to work in ways that are often invisible at the moment. We learn to walk by trust, not by sight, and this practice builds a deep, abiding peace that cannot be shaken by circumstances. Surrendering daily strengthens our relationship with God. It creates a rhythm of dependence, reminding us that we are not alone and that we are part of a larger plan. Each act of surrender is a statement of belief that God is capable, that He is loving, and that His timing is perfect. Over time, these repeated choices build spiritual endurance. When we face bigger trials, our faith has already been trained through smaller, everyday acts of surrender. We become people who are less reactive to fear and more responsive to God's guidance. Importantly, daily surrender also teaches patience and humility. It reminds us that life is not about having control over every detail, but about trusting a higher power who is infinitely wiser than we are. Each day presents moments to practice letting go of pride, worry, and the illusion of control. Through this consistent practice, our hearts are transformed and our faith is strengthened. Surrender is a journey, not a destination, and it is in the daily choice to release what we cannot manage that we discover the depth of God's love, the reality of His provision, and the profound peace that comes from trusting Him completely.